Hello, hello. You know, I think something that has always eluded me is the ability to just be myself on camera. I'm really bad with just talking to people in general, in the sense of I don't like public speaking. I don't like any of those things, and I don't know why. I'm not like the worst person to talk to in the world, right? So I thought I'd do this for a couple reasons. Obviously, I want to up the public speaking thing, but I also, you know, the possibility of making money is not lost on me here, and it would be quite nice. So if you like whatever what I say in this video, watch the next one. There's gonna be like five by the end of the day. All right. So first thing I'm talking about today is the political nature of One Piece. Drums of liberation. I don't want to say that I hate stupid people, but really ignorant people are on a list that I have that I've built up of things that I don't like. And there's a lot of willfully ignorant people in the One Piece fan base that I think, when you lack the ability to understand writing, or you purposefully lack the ability to contextualize the writing to yourself. I don't think contextualize is the best way to say that. Comprehend the writing, though. You've done yourself a disservice. You watch a show where the main character expressly tells you that he wants to be the king of the pirates because the king of the pirates is the most free person on the seas. Amongst his friend group, there's a former slave with a brand on him signifying that. There's a jewelry thief who steals from every pirate she meets because of the fact that she wants to buy back her village from another former slave. And you're still telling yourself, yeah, you know what? There's no way it's political. There is another person in the same crew, the same group of friends, who has had a literal death warrant on her since she was 8 years old, because she knew how to read another language, essentially. So when you see all these signs of tyranny, I'm looking away now because there's like another camera here that I can see better, and it's a mirror. Anyway, when you're looking at yourself like that, you have to ask yourself, why are you so stupid? And if you don't know the answer, I'm going to answer it for you. But before we answer why you're stupid, let's talk about what makes One Piece so political. I'm not gonna lie, this camera looking into it is really I don't like it. Anyway, holy shit, I'm gonna have to edit that out. No, I won't. I'm not gonna edit it at all. Pulling a Flight Reacts, no edits, no cuts, just straight through. Anyway, though, I'd argue the worst part about this whole thing is more so the people that are like that middle grounded, that say, well, it's kind of political, but it's not that political. It's not that big a deal. Honestly, I think you're looking too far into it. No, I don't think I am. I don't think I am. Anyway, though, I spun a wheel before I even started this, and I wrote down what I got in the wheel. I don't know the answers. I'm sorry. Give me a second. Anyway, I spun the wheel. So the first spin, I'm going to go through two One Piece sagas, and I'm going to explain just the little political allegories I can make based off them, and the details, of course. I'm going to start with Water 7. So obviously the build for the saga starts with the Foxy Pirates, their return at least. We'd already met them, I'm pretty sure this is the one where Luffy dons the afro. I could make that political, by the way. I'm going to choose not to. Anyway, they end up coming across towards the end of the small, like, Foxy Pirates, Long Island arc. They end up coming across an admiral, a Navy Marine admiral, Aokiji. And, he whoops Luffy's ass, and then he tells Robin, hey, don't forget who you are, in a really scary way at the time. He was really funny, though. If you watched it in dub, it was kind of scary in sub. Only a little bit. It was still pretty funny. But we end up finding out later on that the shipwrights working at Water 7, we're skipping to Water 7. We're not staying in Longland for this long. We don't need to. The shipwrights working at Water 7 are really Cypher Pole 9. which is basically a high-level government agency that, you know, gathers intelligence and kills people, assassins, right? So these feds are interacting with Robin now, and they convince her to turn herself in so that the Straw Hats don't also get arrested with her. So the Straw Hats, you know, they eventually fight back, obviously. They get their asses whooped again, this time by CP9, not by the Admiral. And CP9 wins because they possess a series of powers, the 6 powers, which I'm not going to explain because I don't want to go on the longest tangent ever. If you ever do want me to try to explain them, though, comment down below. I will. I'm going to do it in my own way, though. Don't worry. Oh, damn. I'm going to go on a tangent anyway. The tangent I'm going to go on is I want you guys to also remember that Luffy's grandfather is a Navy Vice Admiral. He's also heralded as the hero of the Marines. And he's cool with all this happening. So he's cool. Remember the whole slave thing I mentioned earlier? He's perfectly fine with that. He's actually a slave wrangler. Yeah. He's cool with islands getting sunk. He's cool with all of it. He really loves it. He loves being a Marine. And, you know, I think there was something in a new chapter recently, or someone said, oh, he's there to save the Marines. He's there to save the Marines. That is like saying the police chief is only the police chief because he likes his officers. That's a bad take. He's not there to save the Marines. And if Oda told you that, why are you trusting Oda? Bro, niggas think because Oda writes the story that this is like, no, One Piece was preordained. I don't think people understand that. It was a preordained show. Oda just writes it down, but he's not thinking of it. The thoughts are being implanted into his mind, and he just, you know, he types it or writes it. That's how One Piece is written. Remember that. Anyway, back to the original story. We end up learning about Robin and how she was able to get this bounty of 79 million berries. Yeah, berries. Anyway, at 8 years old, she was a member of the, a young member, junior scholar of the Ohara Scholars. Ohara is an island of, obviously, scholars. You know, they have like this large tree there. It's like the Tree of Knowledge, I believe it's called. And we know that based on that, her parents, especially her mother, are scholars as well. And I believe her father was out of the picture, but her mother was able to show up during the arc or during the flashback. And we saw her mother. And basically everyone in Ohara, because they want to read these things called poneglyphs, which are ancient texts that detail the Void Century in One Piece, which is essentially like lost history. It's the essential, like, if I could compare it to anything, it'd be like if nothing was recorded in the Dark Ages, which there's a lot of things that weren't recorded in the Dark Ages of society, or just everything before we were able to write everything down and save it. It's like, do you know, okay, it's like this. We wouldn't know who Socrates and Aristotle, no. I believe it was Socrates, though. If, I believe it was Jewish, not missionaries, but just Jewish people. Jewish people, they were able to save a lot of books during their time of fleeing throughout Europe, escaping persecution. And they were able to save things. And that's how we found out who Socrates was later. We weren't able to preserve the information of Socrates until they brought it. And then they were like, hey, we have this thing, this story, and it's records of this man that existed that was a genius. And that's how we know who Socrates is today. Had they not done that, we wouldn't know who Socrates was. And that's what these poneglyphs are. It's information. Only thing is, it's in an ancient text, as I said. It's like reading hieroglyphics or reading Amharic if you're not Ethiopian. It's totally different, so you have to learn how to learn to read it, right? But these, I just cracked my finger. That's what that sound was. Yeah, all right, yeah, that was lame. But yeah, so anyway, back to the point. I feel like I've said that a lot. But yeah, so all of the scholars in Ohara are learning, and Robin excels the most, basically, at reading these poneglyphs. So, of course, when the world government catches wind of this, they want to stop this whole thing. So they show up to Uhura after a buster call, which is when I believe it's one Navy admiral and like 2 or 3 vice admirals, a bunch of Navy warships show up to one island and they literally just lay siege to it. You know, these are supposed to be the government, the feds, the enforcers of law, but every time they show up, they just kill people. That's it. Like they just kill people. There's no, oh hey, we're here to take you to. They just kill people. That's it. All right, that's not it, but they really just kill people a lot. Anyway, so they kill pretty much all the Uhura scholars. I said scholars, except Robin. During this time, when Robin's trying to flee the island, she meets, or actually a little bit before she's trying to flee the island, she meets a member of the D clan named Jaguar D Saul, and he protects her because he's friends with her mother. So, you know, they befriend each other, and he eventually gets killed by the admiral we met earlier, Kizaru. Whoa. I don't know why I said Kizaru. I meant to say Aokiji. Anyway, he gets killed by Aokiji. He gets frozen to death. He does it while he's like laughing and crying, sort of, though. And that's a common thing for the D clan. They die with a smile on their face or while laughing, which is something we notice from Luffy, we notice from Gold Roger, we notice from Ace. We notice it in Ace. I hope that's not a spoiler. You should have watched it by now. I think it happened like 20 years. No, I think it happened like 17 years ago at least, right? Ace died 17 years ago at least. I'm hoping. Anyway, so with all that being said, literally Uhura gets taken off the map after this. Robin is able to get away, and she basically for the rest of her life, at least until we meet her in Alabasta, couch surfs. She has to escape people over and over again. I think the only person she ever meets that she's actually able to stay with for quite some time is Crocodile, and he's a criminal. He only wants her so that she can read poneglyphs to find the weapon Pluton. So Robin basically never has any friends. And this is a very sad thing, but we get to a point, sorry, I have to scroll, because I have to make sure I'm in the right part of my story. I have like little footnotes. Anyway, though, getting back, I just remembered something. Just another footnote. Aokiji, the guy that killed Saul and is tried to catch Robin and is telling Robin to go and get, by the Marines, guess who his mentor is? Luffy's grandfather. The slave wrangler, yes. I really don't like Garp. If you ever want to know why, I think you know why right now, don't you? Yeah, you do. Anyway, so we get through all of that, and the Straw Hats find out all the information I just told you about Uhura. I mean, they find out enough of it, and them and the Frankie family. Frankie, formerly known as Cutty Flam, has now also been arrested at Water 7 because there's a specific guy who basically runs Cypher Pole 9, and he has a grudge against Frankie. Which, by the way, here's another little political tidbit. Frankie's mentor, a shipwright named Tom, he also is basically like the leader of all the shipwrights on Water 7, or the mentor to like the best shipwrights on Water 7. He made the King of the Pirates ship before he died. So before the King of the Pirates was even the King of the Pirates, he was just Roger back then. Tom made his ship for him, and the world government put him to death simply for making a ship. Don't worry though, guys. It's not political. Not political in the slightest. There's not one political thing about getting put to death for doing something that you were paid to do. Just for doing a job. Nothing political about that. Almost like they wanted to silence Tom. I wonder why. Anyway, so we get past that, and Frankie goes through it with this guy, like I said, that runs CP9. Basically, his name's Spondum. And we end up getting to an impasse where the Frankie family and the Straw Hats are pursuing both Robin and Frankie, trying to save their lives. And they're on their way, they're doing it. I don't really need to talk about the whole Usopp thing right now. It's not, Jesus Christ. I was moving my foot and it just kicked the whole camera out of place. It doesn't matter, I'm not moving it back. Anyway, we get through all of that, and now we're at Enies Lobby. And obviously, you know, the Straw Hats do that really cool thing where they shoot down the world government flag. Not political, by the way. Even though I'm pretty sure burning a flag, at least in the United States, is illegal, right? That is like political. No, not political. Okay. They fight CP9. Luffy gets new abilities, blah, blah, blah. Robin rejoins the crew. You know, she finally reveals that she never really, she wants to live, which is a big deal because her whole life, she's just been sentenced to death. And yeah, that's pretty much the Water 7 saga for all the political nature I can extract from it right now. In the, this is just based off my memory though. So keep that in mind. This is based off my memory and like what little things I could jot down to make sure my memory's jogged. Anyway, on the second spin, I got Fishman Island, which is the saga. So that includes the return to Sabaody. I'm not going to talk about that though. Fishman Island itself, I don't think there's anything after that. Is there like if there's a small filler section, we're not going to talk. We're just going to talk about Fishman Island. Specifically, we're going to talk about two characters on Fishman Island, Fisher Tiger and Queen Otohime. So we're going to start with the fact that we're not going to care about any of the agendas I previously pushed about Garp. We're just going to talk about Fisher Tiger and Queen Otohime and the political nature of both characters. That should not get clipped. I don't want to see that 6-7 at all. So we first get into the story of Fisher Tiger. Fisher Tiger was a former slave fishman, obviously, Fisher. And he freed slaves from Mary Joie. Mary Joie is like the Holy Land. If I do edit anything, I'm going to put like a really large flag here. Keep in mind, I said Holy Land. So if I don't put the flag, I think you know what flag to picture here. Yes, you do. I hope you do. Anyway, so after freeing those slaves, he starts a pirate collective, a pirate crew called the Sun Pirates, and it's comprised of freed slaves and like-minded fishermen, who have either gone through the mistreatment, who've gotten mistreatment from humans, been slaves themselves in different places, or you know, just don't like humans in general because of what happened to their fishman brothers. So the Sun Pirates go around, Sun Pirates, Fishman Pirates, whatever you want to call them. They go around and they, you know, they wreak havoc. A lot of times they wreak havoc. They do try to free other slaves. They just try to do everything they can to be free. That is a dynamic that happens a lot in One Piece. People do things to be free. Not political though. Don't worry, freedom is not political at all. Anyway, they end up, one of the more notable things that Fisher Tiger ends up doing is he goes against his creed of hating humans because he comes across this girl with no parents, no nothing, and she talks about how she just wants to get back home. She does have parents and like a family and stuff, but she wants to get back home and she's lost. So Fisher Tiger and the Sun Pirates escort her back to her island, and they take her back there, and this girl, she ends up joining the direct opposition of the world government later on in life. Her name's Koala. She ends up becoming like, I think like a high-ranking officer in the Revolutionary Army. An army led by Luffy's father, Dragon, who's also the son of head slave ranker Garp. It's kind of funny, don't you think? Like, you know, the grandfather is a slave wrangler. The son is the leader and founder of the biggest opposition to the world government, and then the grandson wants to be the king of the pirates, so another opposition to the world government. It's really funny. Anyway, so another thing that Fisher Tiger wants to do after freeing Koala and bringing her back home is he wants to fix the sort of damaged relationship between fishmen and mer people. So he does that as much as he can until his untimely death when he's murdered. After, all the human hating stuff, I guess, caught up to him, so to speak. By the way, those humans deserved it. They deserved every last bit. I'm sorry. Or maybe not every last one of them, but a lot of them did deserve it for what they did, especially the world nobles. They deserve everything coming to them. But to the other side of the pendulum that's swinging, we have Queen Otohime. She is like Fisher Tiger in the fact that she wants, peace and things like that, but she wants a peaceful coexistence between humans and mer people, fish people. I like mer people better. So, she ends up creating this petition. She gathers signatures, and she basically just wants the people of Fishman Island to all be able to live on the surface, which has not been allowed and was outlawed by the world government, because anytime fish people are up there, if it's a mermaid or fishmen too, they either get enslaved, murdered, hunted down. It's just a bunch of really terrible things happen to them on the surface, and Queen Otohime just wants to be able to live freely there, freely, non-political. But anyway, one day there's this fishman who hates humans. He actually is a kind of like a steward, I'd say, of the Sun Pirates in a way. And his name's Hody Jones. And what he does, he decides to shoot the world noble that came down to look at Otohime's petition. And he shoots, and Otohime actually intercepts the bullet using her observation haki. So she basically predicted where the bullet was going to go, got in front of the bullet, she gets shot instead, saves the world noble. The world noble then decides, you know what? This petition must have valor. So he goes back up to the surface and tries to get the whole thing, he tries to get the whole thing approved. It doesn't really work, but he ends up forging a bunch of signatures, and it kind of works. So while he's coming back down, Queen Otohime gets murdered, and he's there, and she gets murdered by Hody Jones, the same guy that shot her, and he frames the world noble for it. So then, obviously, all of Fishman Island and all fish people in general their hate for humans is so intensified by this that it goes from here to past where you can even see. And Hody does this because he truly does not want or like humans, and he doesn't want to live level to level with them. He wants to be above humans, which, Fishman superiority complex. I mean, I'm not gonna say that it's the worst thing in the world when you look at how fishmen have been treated. They'd have to, some of them would have to at least be like, you know what, I really don't like this group of people, don't want to live with them. Makes sense, right? So, this brings us back to the present day where Hody's trying to do all this stuff, trying to overthrow the government, not the world government, the monarchy of Fishman Island. So that's King Neptune, his 3 sons, and his daughter. So I believe they want to kidnap they want to kidnap the mermaid princess, do a bunch of other things. Obviously, they get stopped by the Straw Hats. Oh, before I end the video, I do want to add in a little tidbit because, for the political nature, of course. Fishman Island was currently being guarded, but really just owned by Big Mom, which is she was one of the 4 emperors of the sea, the 4 great kings, right? And she literally owns and taxes Fishman Island, overtaxes them actually, to the point where they're struggling a lot. And, how political is taxing? Not very, right? I mean, there's no way. And I just want to say before I end the video, these are just 2 cases. I could have talked about the War of the Best. I could have talked about, what else could I have talked about? See, I'm looking bad now. I could have talked about Dressrosa had I spun that wheel right. But I only chose to talk about these things. Well, the wheel chose, but you get the point. I could have just chose it because, anyway, thank you for watching. I'm going to record this. I'm probably going to edit in like maybe the wheel, if not, and maybe that flag. Regardless, another video is going to come out today. Thank you.